You think you know someone. You build a life with them. You trust them with your deepest secrets, and you picture a future where you grow old together. I thought I knew Chloe. I was wrong. It all ended with a single text message, 7 words, that shattered my entire world and set me on a path I never could have imagined. This isn't just a story about betrayal. This is a story about the perfect revenge. My name is Alex Rayner. I'm 28 years old, a structural engineer living in a high-rise apartment in Chicago. My life was a checklist of success, a great job, a beautiful girlfriend, and a future that seemed written in stone. I loved the simplicity of my life, coming home to Chloe, planning our next hiking trip, and building a stable, secure world together. We weren't millionaires, but we were comfortable, happy, or so I believed. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I just left a site inspection, my hands still dusty, feeling that good kind of tired that comes from real work. My phone buzzed. A message from Chloe. I smiled, expecting a heart emoji, perhaps a question about what to order for dinner tonight. But the words on that screen turned my blood to ice. Lunch with Braden. Just call an Uber. Just call an Uber. Like I was a nuisance, an errand. Braden. The name hit me like a physical blow. Her wealthy venture capitalist ex from college, whom she had sworn was just a friend. My mind started racing, connecting dots I never wanted to see. The late nights at the office. The new, expensive perfume. The way she'd guard her phone. This text was different. It was cold, dismissive. It wasn't for my eyes. I was never supposed to see it. A numbness washed over me, right there on the busy Chicago sidewalk. The world kept moving, but I was frozen. The trust, the love, the future. It all crumbled into dust. And in that cold, silent void, a new feeling began to burn. Not sadness, not anger, something colder, more precise, a plan. If she thought she could just discard me like yesterday's trash, she had another thing coming. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't beg. I would become a ghost in her perfect lying world. I would learn everything. I would become an architect of ruin, and I would dismantle her life piece by piece until she had nothing left. But how far would you go when the person you love most becomes the stranger who destroys you? What is the price of a broken heart? Stick around, because what I did next, it redefined revenge. If you know the pain of betrayal, if you believe in karma, like this video and subscribe right now. You won't believe how this ends. Comment below with what you would have done. This story, it's just getting started. The numbness from that sidewalk didn't last. It was an anesthetic. And when it wore off, every emotion hit me at once. A raw, screaming pain that made it hard to breathe. But I didn't break. I channeled it all into a cold, focused silence. I stood there, not as Alex Rayner, the loving boyfriend, but as a man surveying a broken structure, calculating the load-bearing walls of the lie I'd been living in. And I knew the first rule of engineering. Before you can rebuild, or in my case, demolish, you need to understand every flaw in the foundation. To understand how deep the betrayal ran, you have to understand what I thought I had. Chloe wasn't just my girlfriend, she was my anchor. We met 3 years ago at a charity run along Lake Michigan. She was struggling with a blister, all fierce determination and frustration, and I offered her a spare bandage. She was 26, a freelance graphic designer with dreams of starting her own agency. She painted, loved old black and white movies, and could make me laugh until my sides hurt. She came from a solid middle-class family in Ohio, and she valued authenticity, or so she said. We built a life in my Lincoln Park apartment, a space filled with her art and our shared dreams. It was our sanctuary. Or so I thought. And then there was him, Braden Whitaker. I had to learn about him the hard way. He wasn't just an ex, he was a dynasty, 30 years old, a venture capitalist from old Boston money. His family's name was on museum wings and university libraries. He worked in a sleek, glass-walled office in the Loop, managing money he was born into, making more money. His hobby was being influential. His environment was private clubs, charity galas, and a penthouse apartment with a view that made mine look like a broom closet. He was polished, charming, and used to getting what he wanted. He was the opposite of everything Chloe claimed to hate. I began my reconnaissance not with rage, but with a methodical precision that would have made my engineering professors proud. I became a ghost in my own life. I noticed things I'd been blind to before. The way Chloe's face would light up at a text, only to quickly dim when she saw it was me. The new, expensive cashmere sweater, she said, was a sample sale find. The sudden girls' nights that always seemed to happen on nights Braden was tagged in photos at upscale downtown lounges. I started digging, my fingers flying across keyboards in the dead of night. I cross-referenced her calendar with his, social media check-ins. I mapped their movements. A client meeting for her aligned perfectly with his long business lunch at Maple and Ash. A weekend visiting her parents coincided with a conference he was speaking at in Napa Valley. The evidence wasn't circumstantial. It was a pattern, a meticulously constructed second life. The moral conflict began to eat at me. This wasn't me. I was the guy who fixed things, who built things. Spying felt dirty. But the image of that text, "Just call an Uber," was a brand on my mind. It was the ultimate dismissal. She didn't see me as a man with feelings. I was an obstacle, an inconvenience to be managed with a ride-sharing app. That text gave me permission to shed my old morals. The man who played by the rules was dead. He was replaced by someone colder, smarter, and infinitely more patient. I wasn't just going to expose the affair. That was too simple, too messy. I wanted them to unravel from the inside out. I wanted to target what they valued most. For Chloe, it was her carefully curated image of success and independence. For Braden, it was his money, his power, and his reputation. I would turn their greatest strengths into their ultimate weaknesses. The plan began to form in the shadows of my mind, a blueprint for ruin. I would need access, I would need leverage, and most of all, I would need to become a stranger to the man I once was. But how do you break into a world of private clubs and penthouse parties when you're an outsider? What's the first move in a game you never wanted to play? The answers would surprise you. If you're ready to see how a calculated mind turns pain into power, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Your support tells YouTube this is a story worth sharing. Comment below with what you think my first move should be. The real game is about to begin. The blueprint was set. My target wasn't Chloe, not directly. It was the world they were building together, a world of lies, privilege, and stolen trust. My engineering mind saw it not as a relationship, but as a system. And every system has a weakest point. For Braden Whitaker, that point was his ego. My first move was access. I needed to be a ghost in their machine, invisible but everywhere. I created a shadow profile on LinkedIn and Instagram, Aiden Chase, freelance tech journalist. I used a blurry professional stock photo for a headshot and followed Braden, his firm, and all his smug, wealthy connections. He bit immediately, flattered by the attention. I began lightly engaging with his posts, thoughtful comments on market trends and congratulations on his deals. I was building a digital bridge right into his world. Meanwhile, at home, I became the perfect actor. I apologized to Chloe for being distant, blaming a stressful project at work. I brought her flowers. I listened to her talk about her busy schedule without a flicker of suspicion on my face. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Every smile felt like a crack in my soul, but I plastered them over with the grim determination of a man sealing his own tomb. The injustice of it burned. I was comforting her for betraying me. The cruelty of her lie was a constant low hum in the back of my skull. Then, my Aiden persona got its break. Braden's firm was sponsoring a tech innovation mixer at a rooftop bar. It was the perfect hunting ground. From the shadows of the crowd, I watched them. I saw the way his hand lingered on the small of her back, a possessive gesture that screamed more than just friendship. I saw her laugh, a little too loud, leaning into his world of money and influence. I took photos, not of them kissing, but of the intimacy in their body language, the proof that this was far more than a lunch. But the real goldmine was what I overheard. Drunk on champagne and his own success, Braden held court with a few guys, and he said the words that sealed his fate. He laughed, lowering his voice. The key isn't to break the rules, it's to make the rules work for you. My fund's latest surge? Let's just say we got a very favorable, early look at some city planning permits. A nudge in the right direction from a friend on the inside never hurts. Bingo. insider, trading, or something damn close to it. It was a vague, drunken boast, but it was a thread, and I was ready to pull. The moral challenge was immediate. This was no longer about a broken heart. It was about crossing a line into something illegal. Was I willing to destroy a man's entire career, his freedom, over my personal pain? I looked at Chloe, hanging on his every word, and I heard her text echo in my mind. Just call an Uber. They weren't playing by any rules. Why should I? I spent the next week in a deep, dark dive. I cross-referenced public permit applications with the trading times of his fund. The patterns were there, subtle but undeniable. Wins that were too lucky, investments that seemed to know the future. I compiled it all into a digital dossier, a beautifully crafted piece of financial detective work. But it was just a theory. I needed hard proof. I needed a key. That key came from the most unexpected place, Chloe's laptop. She'd asked me to fix a corrupted file for her. It was a level of trust so profound, so insulting in its irony, I almost laughed. As the data recovered, I didn't look at her work files. I went for her email, and I found it. A buried folder, labeled B. It wasn't filled with love letters. It was worse. It was a spreadsheet, a meticulous, cold-blooded list. On one side, her expenses, rent, student loans, and credit card debt. On the other side, 2 columns, Alex and Braden. Next to my name were check marks for stability and safety. Next to his were dollar signs, figures, projections. It was a cost-benefit analysis of her relationships. I was the safe bet. He was the upgrade. I wasn't a person. I was a financial plan that had been outperformed. The emotional cruelty of that document dwarfed the affair itself. She was calculating her exit strategy while sleeping in my bed. The final blow came that night. She was in the shower, and her phone buzzed on the coffee table. A notification from Braden lit up the screen. Can't wait for Cabo next month. You're finally free. Free. The word echoed in the silent apartment. Free of me. Free of our life. They were planning their future, a future built on the rubble of mine. The consequence of my inaction was staring me in the face. I would be left behind, discarded, while they toasted to their new life on a beach in Mexico, funded by his crooked deals and her calculated betrayal. No, that was not going to happen. The dossier on Braden was my weapon, but it was a bomb that would blow up in my face if I used it wrong. I couldn't just send it to the SEC anonymously. It needed to be untraceable. It needed to come from within his world. I needed an ally, someone with their own axe to grind. I went back to my Aiden persona and dug into the employees at Braden's firm. I found her, Sarah Gable, a sharp, passed-over junior analyst. Her LinkedIn was a masterpiece of quiet frustration. Braden had taken credit for her work on 3 separate projects. She had a motive. I crafted an email from a secure, encrypted server. Sarah, Aiden Chase here. I'm working on a piece about innovation in Chicago venture capital. I've heard you're the real brains behind some of Whitaker's biggest wins. Off the record, I've also heard some rumors about his methods being less than orthodox. Attached is some data I've compiled. I'd value your perspective. Absolute discretion assured. I attached a redacted version of my dossier, enough to terrify her, but not enough to be definitive. I hit send. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. I was no longer just a betrayed boyfriend. I was a puppet master, pulling strings in the dark, gambling with lives. I had just lit the fuse. But would my new ally help me burn it all down? Or would she take it straight to Braden and expose my entire game? The walls were starting to close in, and one wrong move would bury me alive. The wait was an agony. For 48 hours, my life was a held breath. Every ping from my computer was a potential detonation. Had Sarah gone straight to Braden? Were they laughing at my amateur sleuthing right now? I barely slept, my mind racing through every possible outcome, each one more catastrophic than the last. Then, the response arrived. Not an email. A direct message to the Aiden account from a brand new anonymous profile. It contained only 3 words. We need to talk. And a link to a secure chat server. My hands were ice. This was it. Either a trap or an alliance. I logged in. Sarah's first message was a torrent of fear and fury. Who are you really? This isn't for an article. This is personal. I couldn't lie anymore. The truth was the only currency I had left. I typed back, my fingers trembling, not with fear, but with a long, suppressed rage finally finding its outlet. You're right, it's personal. My name is Alex Rayner, Chloe's boyfriend. Or I was. I saw the spreadsheet. I know what he is. And I know what he's done to you. The cursor blinked for an eternity. Then her response appeared, simple and devastating. Send me everything. I unleashed the entire digital dossier, the timeline of their affair, the financial correlations, the photos from the rooftop, and the damning Cabo text. I gave her the keys to the kingdom of ruin. For hours, we plotted in the digital shadows, two ghosts crafting a symphony of consequences. She had the internal access I lacked. She could get the unredacted emails, the deleted Slack messages, and the proof that Braden's nudge was a multi-million-dollar fraud. The plan was set for the day of Braden's firm's quarterly investor meeting, a black-tie gala at the Art Institute, the pinnacle of his arrogant, fraudulent success. Chloe would be there on his arm, finally showcasing her upgrade to the world. That night, I didn't hide. I put on my best suit. I walked into that gala like I owned it, my heart a drum of cold fire. I saw them across the room, a perfect, glittering picture of deceit. Chloe was radiant in a black gown I'd never seen before, paid for with his dirty money. She was laughing, her hand tucked possessively in Braden's elbow. They didn't see me at first. I watched as Braden took the podium, beaming, ready to bask in the adoration of his investors. The large screen behind him lit up with charts showing staggering growth. He began his speech, oozing smug satisfaction. Ladies and gentlemen, our success isn't magic. It's about vision. It's about seeing opportunity where others see. He never finished the sentence, because at that exact moment, the screen behind him flickered. The growth charts vanished. For a heart-stopping second, it went blue. And then, a new presentation began to play. Not the one his PR team prepared. It was our presentation. First, the text message. Lunch with Braden, just call an Uber. It filled the giant screen. A brutal, intimate betrayal magnified for a horrified audience of hundreds. A wave of confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. Chloe's face drained of all color. She took a stumbling step backward. Braden, flustered, tried to laugh it off. Technical difficulty, folks. Someone's idea of a joke. Then the next slide clicked into place. The spreadsheet. Chloe's cold, calculated cost-benefit analysis of her two men. The columns labeled Alex, Stability, and Braden were crystal clear. A gasp went up. People turned to stare at her. She looked like she'd been shot. What is this? Who is doing this? Braden screamed, frantically signaling to his AV team, who were scrambling uselessly at their console. But the show wasn't over. The next slides were a rapid-fire demolition of his entire life. Internal emails about the insider trading, Slack messages detailing the fraud. Then, the photos from the rooftop, his hand on her back, their intimate laughter. And finally, the screenshot of his text. Can't wait for Cabo next month. You're finally free. The room erupted into chaos. Investors were on their feet, shouting. Phones were out, recording everything. Reporters who were there to cover a financial story were now witnessing the scandal of the decade. I finally stepped out of the shadows into a pool of light. I didn't say a word. I just looked at them. My eyes met Chloe's. I saw the dawning, horrific recognition in her face, followed by a shame so profound it looked like physical pain. She knew. She knew it was me. Braden followed her gaze, his face a grotesque mask of fury and utter shock. The man he'd dismissed as a mere Uber-calling inconvenience had just dismantled his entire world in front of everyone who mattered. In that moment, there was no shouting, no physical fight. There was only the silent, devastating impact of the truth delivered not with a scream, but with a click of a button. The perfect, structural collapse of two lives built on a foundation of lies. I had not just exposed them. I had turned their greatest triumph into their most humiliating defeat. I turned and walked out, the sounds of their ruin echoing behind me. The revenge was complete. It was silent. It was absolute. And it was forever. The silence outside the Art Institute was deafening. After the explosion of noise inside, the calm of the Chicago night felt surreal, like I'd stepped into a different dimension. I didn't look back. I just walked, the cold air filling my lungs, not with joy, but with a hollow, echoing stillness. The deed was done. The perfect revenge, executed flawlessly. So why did I feel so empty? The fallout was swift and merciless, playing out on business news channels and gossip sites for weeks. Braden Whitaker's firm was eviscerated. The SEC launched a full-scale investigation. The favorable nudges he'd boasted about became the center of a federal case. His family's legacy, once a shield of old money respectability, was now permanently tarnished. He didn't just lose his career, he lost his name. He became a cautionary tale, a symbol of arrogant greed brought low. Chloe lost everything she'd traded me for. Her reputation as a designer evaporated overnight. No one wants to hire a woman known for her ruthless personal spreadsheets and very public infidelity. The life of luxury, the Cabo trips, the penthouse view, it all vanished in the blink of an eye. She tried to call me once. I listened to the voicemail, not with satisfaction, but with a distant pity. It was just a choked sob and the words, "Alex, I'm so sorry. What have I done?" I deleted it. Her apology wasn't for the betrayal. It was for getting caught. Some debts can never be repaid with words. As for me, I sold the Lincoln Park apartment. Every corner held a ghost. I moved to a smaller place by the water, somewhere with no shared memories. The quiet was my new companion. I threw myself into my work, into designing structures that were honest, stable, and built to last. Everything my relationship wasn't. The raw pain eventually faded, but it left a scar, a reminder. I don't trust as easily anymore. I look at people a little longer and listen a little closer. The experience didn't break me, but it did change the fundamental architecture of who I am. And that's the real moral of this story, the piece of hard-won American wisdom I'm left with. We're a nation built on the idea of justice. We love a good revenge story, a tale of the underdog fighting back and winning. We cheer for the quiet man who finally makes his stand. But what they don't tell you is that revenge isn't a victory party. It's a surgery you perform on your own soul without anesthesia. You might remove the cancer of your pain, but you're always left with the scar tissue. You have to live with the knowledge of the darkness you were capable of, the cold, calculating person you had to become to balance the scales. I don't regret what I did. In the face of such calculated cruelty, such arrogant injustice, I believe I had a right to respond. I protected what was left of myself, but I also recognized that in my quest to destroy the lies they lived, I had to weave a web of my own. I became a ghost, a manipulator, a shadow. I won, but the cost was a piece of my own innocence. The question this leaves us with isn't about whether revenge is right or wrong. It's about the price. Was it worth it? For me, in that moment, with that text burning a hole in my heart, yes, absolutely. But the true victory wasn't in their destruction. It was in my survival. It was in walking away from the rubble, scarred but standing, and choosing to build a new life. One based not on the reflection of someone else's greed, but on my own two hands and my own honest work. The greatest revenge isn't about crafting the perfect punishment for someone else. It's about building a perfect peace for yourself. They are still trapped in the aftermath of the explosion I triggered. But me? I'm free. So I leave you with this. Can true justice ever be delivered without losing a part of yourself in the process? Is there a line where righteous revenge becomes its own kind of poison? And most importantly, if you were in my shoes, standing in the ruins of everything you believed in, would you have walked away? Or would you have pressed the button, knowing the cost? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Share your own stories of betrayal and resilience. And if this story resonated with you, if you believe in karma or just a good tale of justice served, please like and share this video and subscribe for more. Your support tells the algorithm that these stories matter. Until next time.